everyone, and welcome to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today, Eric and I are going to do a full-blown spoiler podcast on Iron Man 3. We have both reviewed the film on our respective channels. Eric did a spoiler review already, so if you've heard that, you'll probably hear him say things he's said already. And I've just done a non-spoiler review with Brandon, but folks always like to hear us say that you know, go a little more in depth. So now it's podcast time, and Eric, thanks for being with me, because you're like the Iron Man guy.
I am Mr. Iron Man.
Mr. Iron Man? That's redundant, isn't it? Like Mr. Man? Like.
No, it's a surname.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so, Eric, as everyone I'm sure that watches your channel is aware of by now, you freaking loved this movie.
I did. It is everything I want in life.
In life, even. Not just in an Iron Man movie, but in life.
No, well, you know, there's so much Iron Man goodness and comic book referencey stuff, and, you know, it's a Shane Black movie, like, through and through. I think something that I think a lot of people kind of missed is those ending credits. Like, I really think, like, that's the movie that they made. They made an 80s action movie, superhero movie. And I feel like there's certain problems with the film that people have brought up that I'm like, I don't care. It's not like, you know, the Christopher Nolan films where they take themselves so seriously, and therefore so do I. Like one of the big complaints somebody brought to me was like, where does AIM get their funding? I was like, I don't know. Where does AIM get their funding in the comics?
Yeah, I never would have thought of that.
Where does Lex Luthor get their funding? Get his funding? But yeah, I thought it was great. I don't know. It's weird because I don't feel like I'm an action movie guy. Maybe I'm just not a modern action movie guy because I look at trailers for action movies and I could care less. But you know, I love all of Shane Black's films.
You know, I'm that way too. I see previews for action movies and I'm like, who cares? And then sometimes I'll watch 80s action movies because my wife loves them and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then sometimes I'll be, you know, like thoroughly taken in by them and like, wow, that was thrilling. And that was the big word I used when Brandon and I did our first review on this, was that this movie is thrilling. I saw some action stuff here that I don't think I've ever seen before, and despite other qualms and just taste issues, the best thing about Iron Man 3 for me is I think it's one of the best action comic book movies. I mean, I think it's one of the best comic book movies for action, at least in that first half.
Oh, see, because I think the last action scene is absolutely spectacular.
It's really interesting you say that because it didn't do as much for me as some of the earlier stuff. I think it's because I was more invested in Tony Stark in the first half than I was the second half, and also the movie was visually surprising me with things, and I felt like I had it all figured out by that last act. So we're in the big climactic action scene, and yeah, it's big and it's grandiose, and you've got armors flying everywhere, and you've got, you know, people with Extremis and stuff, but when they try to surprise me with things like, we just lost Pepper Potts, I'm like, no, she's not dead. Like, they can't surprise me anymore after the big reveal about the Mandarin. So the first half, I don't know where they're going, so all of the action is really sucking me in. Especially the destruction of Tony Stark's house. Which I think
is interesting because it was in every single trailer.
I wasn't paying that much attention to trailers.
Okay.
But, I mean, I watched them once, and I just wasn't paying that much attention to it. But the thing is, I mean, like, you know, Tony Stark's apartment kind of got blown up in the second movie. I mean, just because it's in a trailer doesn't mean it's going to be a big deal. You know what I mean? And I didn't know where they were going to go with that, and I don't know what it was, but just something about the way that was shot. And also, I don't talk about this very much, but there is some really cool editing stuff in this movie. And that was visually, it surprised me all over the place.
It should be noted that we were 100% correct. He does have a complete hollow room right before his apartment gets blown up.
Yes, we totally predicted that. Yeah, it was really fun, by the way, doing those two commentaries before we went to see the movie. I'm glad.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things that I thought was really neat was, like I said, little editing things. I thought that there was a lot more just thoughtful. There was a lot more thought. I thought, especially versus the second film, in shot composition and how the action scenes were put together. And something that particularly stands out, it should be noted that Eric and I, by the way, have both only seen this film one time so far. But one of the things that stands out to me was when he crash lands, and in I forget, is it Tennessee or where is it?
I think it's Tennessee.
I forget.
It might be Connecticut.
Where he crash lands, there is this really brief moment where you see his face in the mask just before he hits, real fast. If you blink, you miss it. And there was something about that because he's crashing and stuff in his armor is breaking and it's loud and it's crazy and it just he hits and it hurts you physically sitting in the theater watching it. I thought that in that way we were more with Tony Stark and in his head in this movie than we were with the other two, despite the fact that I still like Iron Man 1 better. But I'm just saying, I felt like I was with him more.
I'm not a technical guy at all, so I didn't notice anything camera angle wise. But I think it's really interesting that you'd say that, given that of all of the people who have done Marvel films, Shane Black is technically the least experienced because he's only directed one film prior to this.
Oh, see, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, I know you always told me that he was a big screenwriter, so I didn't know he hadn't directed much.
Yeah, and then he kind of dropped off the face of the map for a couple of years, and then he came back, actually with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is what kind of reignited Robert Downey Jr.'s career and is what kind of got him the Iron Man job. Because that was the first film that he did, as far as I know, post-recovery.
Well, that makes me wonder if maybe, since he hasn't been behind the camera very much, he's just experimenting, and so there's some kind of fun, interesting things because he hasn't done this before, so he's kind of a kid in the candy store and he's playing with stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely some elements of that. And if nothing else, I think, just, I think you look at a lot of guys where it's their first time doing a big budget film, and you can tell that people were like, it's cool, we'll fix it in post type of a thing. No, we'll put those special effects there, it's gonna look good. And he clearly was not that kind of director. He knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think there's anything in this film, visually speaking, where I'm like, that's a misstep, I didn't, that kind of a thing.
No, I didn't have that at all, and I thought that it seemed like a much grander scale than the first two, which honestly, personally, I think has a lot to do with why so many people are on the fence or completely not okay with the Mandarin reveal. I think that has a lot to do with it, because I think that for a lot of people, and I know you don't have this, I'm including myself in this camp though, I think the first half of that movie is way more fun than the second half, and way more gripping. And I think that what happened for folks was that they thought that they had this giant scale movie, and the scale, whether it really was or not, as soon as they found out that the Mandarin wasn't real, it shrunk. It felt like less of a thing all of a sudden.
Which I think is weird.
So now it's just a corporate tycoon plot, okay, and now we don't care as much. And I think the movie went out of its way to, let me just say this real quick, I think the movie went out of its way to say, look, the stakes are still gigantic, he's still kind of a supervillain because of that line at the end about I am the Mandarin, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it was enough for people, and I'm not sure it was enough for me.
See, because when he actually kind of reveals his plan and everything, it's bigger than what the Mandarin was saying he was doing. I mean,
I know, but
it's still big scale, whether it feels like it or not. If not bigger when you get to the second half, because now you understand that he's also kind of running parts of the government.
Yeah, I get all of that, but I there's something about, I know this is going to sound really stupid, and I admit this before, this is going to sound really stupid. There is something about having a guy like that that's just a guy in a suit, that's not wearing a costume, in a superhero movie like this, where the scale is really that big and grandiose, where it seems easier for the good guy to beat him.
Can I actually say two things there?
And I'm also not even saying that it's a problem so much as a taste issue, Eric. I
No,
think
no.
Pretty much works. I just don't know if I cared for the choice.
I feel like, and that's what I've been getting from a lot of people.
I enjoyed it. I just don't know if I care. By the way, can I also say that compared to a whole lot of other superhero films, I'm pretty indifferent on this one. You know, I didn't have a huge investment in Iron Man 3. You know, I was hoping I would enjoy it. I went. I enjoyed it. I just, you know, I got to be critical because we're doing this podcast, so I don't know how I thought about that. But honestly, like, I walked out in a good mood. I enjoyed it. But I don't know. It's not like other things where, like, you know, I walk in going, oh God, I really hope this is amazing. You know, that sort of thing.
Well, the thing with the guy in the suit at the end, because first of all, I hate that usually. I think
you're the first person to jump on that.
I can't stand that. But the thing here is there's kind of two things. The first one is that's kind of what Iron Man is. I mean, Iron Man's fighting dudes in suits, and Iron Man's fighting dudes in business suits.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, even the Mandarin, like, I know you've never read Haunted, which is probably the best Mandarin story, but when they get to the big fight in that book, it's Mandarin in pants, and he's shooting, like, lightning out of his fingers. Mandarin's never had, like, a uniform costume. What most people think of the Mandarin starts probably with John Byrne in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, he's never had, like, a uniform, this is how he's supposed to look. I mean, right, I guess, yeah. You know, what he looks like as Ben Kingsley is what most people think of, but that look didn't come about till the late 80s, early 90s. So it didn't bother me that much. I really like the tattoos. I have no idea why they're there, but I love that he's got Fin Fang Foom tattoos.
Yeah, I think all that's really fun because it looks like it might have this giant meaning behind it, and then when it turns out that it's an actor, it's like, well, we just wanted to make it look like there was a bunch of meaning behind it. At the risk of sounding like I may be contradicting myself, because of course I'm on the fence about just the choice to not actually straight up do the Mandarin, and I hear what you're saying.
Say about that when you finish.
Yeah, let me just say this real quick. Let me tell you what I like about it. What I like about it is that it's not another terrorist plot.
Which I know you said you were not looking forward to when they said that this was kind of what they were going for.
And that's only because that's what we've been doing with so many, you know, superhero movies and of course lots of other kinds of movies lately, is like, and like, you know, I look at Star Trek Into Darkness and I'm like, yeah, it looks like another one of those kind of terrorist plots. I was kind of...
We have three
I kind of felt
terrorists attacking the White House movies coming out this year.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I was going to walk into Iron Man 3 and I was going to see something that I have seen over and over again lately. And so I enjoyed that it wasn't that, but then I don't know if I liked what they replaced it with either. You know what I mean? I guess the whole deal is, when people say Mandarin should have been the Mandarin and we should have gotten this big epic supervillain, I wanted that too. Then I backtrack and I find myself going, but then how would we have done that differently? What I like about it is that that's precisely this villain's plan. He looks at all of the terrorist plots that we've had in, you know, their version of the real world over a long time, and he says, I'm going to exploit that. I'm going to use America's fear of terror, and I'm going to pretend like I'm that, and I'm actually going to have an entirely different motive for why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I'm going to play on people's sensibilities and their vulnerabilities, and I'm going to use that, but I don't actually believe in anything beyond just, you know, my own science and my
power
own
and money and
trying to get rich and trying to get power kind of thing. Yeah, it's a completely selfish kind of endeavor, and I like that it's not really a revenge plot. I know some people have complained, oh, it's just another guy trying to kill Iron Man, or trying to kill the good guy. Not really until the end, when he just happens to be in a place where he could pretty easily kill Iron Man. He has a personal grudge against Tony Stark, but it's not like he's been spending the last several years, like, building up a plan to kill Tony Stark.
I have a theory with God, you keep talking, and I'm like, well, I've got to say this and this and this.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's totally cool. I think the Mandarin thing's going to cool down. I honestly think that nobody expected that coming in, which is one of the reasons I like it so much, is I've never seen a superhero movie take that big of a risk. Nobody expected it coming in. Nobody was really ready for it, and I think people didn't know how to deal with it. I think as time goes on, people will, knowing that that's happening, I think people accept it better. I think it's just such a, wait, what? Kind
yeah,
of.
I somewhat wish I had known it going in, because, and I predicted it. I mean, after about 20 minutes, where we didn't really see the Mandarin on screen, and then we finally see him, something wasn't right. I mean, like, it wasn't what we usually get. We didn't have the villain actually, talking to any henchmen or blowing anybody's head off or anything, and I was just like, I wonder if maybe he's not, I didn't know if he was an actor, but I did think that he probably wasn't the brains.
He does have one of the best, ominous villain monologues, which is the whole thing about the fortune cookie. Yes.
And again, that's something I really like about it, is that the movie is thematically not about any of that.
Fortune cookies are like America. They're hollow and full of lies. I just thought that was on one hand really menacing, and on the other hand really funny. Which I think
both at the same time, yeah.
And I think maybe that was kind of how it's, like, in universe, I think it's supposed to be kind of tongue-in-cheek. Like, he's creating this mass terrorist scare, but he's having a little bit of fun with it. And honestly,
that gives the villain a little bit of character, I suppose. Yeah.
And going back to, I'm going to be interested to see rewatching it, but from what I remember, like, everything that he says is so kind of generically evil anti-America. I don't know if it all actually means anything. I feel like kind of, I mean, I guess, seeing it a second time will tell, but I feel like it is just kind of nonsense rhetoric that he's just espousing.
I don't think there was any rhetoric at all. I think it was just simply, I'm a bad terrorist guy that hates America, and then people are going to fill in the blanks, which is kind of genius, really, because that's what people would do. They would just immediately look to other terrorists they remember in the past, and they would assume that he has probably some kind of agenda motivated by religion.
I think in the context of the film, it's really smart.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Forgetting comics, forgetting anything, I think within the film itself, I think it's really smart. I don't know if you make that reveal with a joke about going to the bathroom.
No, I don't either. I didn't like that. And that was a scene. I guess this is something I guess pacing and stuff is something we can talk about a little later if you want to keep talking about the Mandarin. But I was just going to say that you and I have talked a little bit about this before, and you know that I think there are some scenes that drag on too long. That's one of them. Once they do that reveal, I think part of what makes it seem kind of lame is that we spend so much time with a fake Mandarin right there. Like, I would have revealed it, and I would have had him, like, he's this drunk guy with a different accent, and Tony Stark's like, what? And then there's a quick explanation, or a little bit of one, and we get more later, and then I would have cut to something else.
See, I like...
real quick, and I think that would have helped it a lot.
I really liked the scene, particularly, I like the ending, I liked the, when the security guard comes in, I like that. I didn't feel like that scene went on too long. I felt like...
Maybe I wouldn't in subsequent viewings, but I remember sitting there going, man, they're playing this comedy up so hard. I think this is why people think this twist is lame.
I felt like that more with the second scene with Trevor.
Maybe I'm lumping those two together a little bit too.
Because the one where Rhodey's there, I felt like that one went a little bit too long. I'm like, just give him the information already.
Yeah.
But I liked the twist. I thought it was really smart. And not something anybody has ever tried before. And as far as I'm concerned, I can kind of just see Guy Pearce as this is the Mandarin for this universe. And I think part of that's just because when you go to the comics, he's written differently every single time somebody touches him. I don't have a problem with
that. Makes it more fair to do that to that guy.
Yeah, every single person has written him completely differently. He has been a feudalist, he has been a communist, he has been someone who just believes in Genghis Khan's philosophy. In Fractions Run, he's just a crazy guy. He is different every single time somebody writes him with a completely different philosophy and motivation.
I also like that people's fears of terrorism are not the only. That's not the only thing that the villain is manipulating. He's also manipulating just like American politics on the whole, and he's using. I mean like the way people feel about oil and things like that.
Well,
so he takes the president and he says hey, that little tiny conspiracy that you were involved with that nobody knows about. Yeah, I don't really care that you did that. It doesn't make any difference to me, but I'm gonna exploit it. I'm gonna use it. I just think that's really smart. I mean, because it makes you look at like where people's priorities are, and if you really stop and think about it, it's people get so up in arms about things like that. It was a surprisingly political movie, and people will get so up in arms about hot button issues and things like that if the right guy came along that was smart enough, he could play on everybody's sensibilities like that.
I think
that's what I liked about it.
What I think is really interesting is given how much the first two movies tried to play the this is the dark side of Tony Stark, this is capitalism gone wrong kind of a thing, throughout kind of different characters, because you got that in Obadiah Stane, you've got that in Justin Hammer, you've got that in Whiplash. I feel like this is really the best depiction of that. It really plays on just the idea of rich corporations can kind of do what they want to some extent, and I don't think it necessarily makes any kind of anti-capitalist statement or even anti-big corporations, but I think this is the best depiction of that of the three films, of the businessman gone evil.
Well, and and I think superhero movies are a great place to talk about this, because what are supervillains usually, especially in Marvel, but somebody who had the right idea and got totally corrupted? I mean, that is the Marvel method of supervillains generally. And this guy is no exception. When he first met Tony Stark, in the flashback in '99 at the beginning, which was just buckets of fun,
I love that scene. I think it was a great way to immediately say, look, we're not the same movie as the last two. This is
that guy there does not have any malicious intent.
No.
It's not until later that he does. And I think that, now maybe I'm reading the movie wrong. Some people I've seen complain that, again, he has this really easy, silly villain motivation because Tony Stark stood him up at a meeting on a roof, and so then he turns evil. I don't think that's how it goes down.
Motivation.
I really didn't get that impression. I felt like that was a small part of it, and that and that maybe that helped him to become more of a competent and then egomaniac, you know what I mean, over time, where he had a little bit of the Justin Hammer thing of, I've got to become better than Tony Stark, that sort of thing. But what's kind of fun about
I didn't get really any connection to Tony Stark with that scene, because when he flashes back when he's talking about it, he doesn't say from then on I hated you. What he talks about is he realized at that point nobody cares about him. He is completely anonymous.
Yeah.
And that's what he exploits.
And I think it's also very important to remember that we've got the classic superhero motif here of the villain who tries to get the hero to join him. This is not a revenge thing.
This one made the most sense out of any of the films.
He wants Tony Stark as part of his conglomerate, right?
Yeah, I think honestly of all of the hero should join the villain things, it makes the most sense here because he's a man of science asking another man of science to work on a science project.
It's also cool that it's not, look at me, I eclipsed you on armor. I invented this totally other thing that has jack to do with the Iron Man armor.
Yes.
But I think it's also interesting that he thinks he's so much better than Tony Stark, and Tony's like, yeah, I figured that out when I was drunk.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was kind of interesting that yeah, the only reason that he's built up what he has is because he continued on and developed Extremis, but Tony could have too if he'd cared about it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the idea I got. And again, I might in this podcast end up saying some things that turn out to be kind of wrong because I've seen the movie once, but that's what I remember from it.
Right. Well, can we kind of shift gears away from the villains and the Mandarin and all of that?
May I say one more thing?
Yes.
I also just like thematically the idea that I know I thought it was pronounced Extremis, but
I always thought it was pronounced Extremis.
But that Extremis is called Extremis because you've also got this a related thematic kind of sub thing of science corrupting people and how at first we were wide doughy-eyed thinking that we could change the world, and then we were too powerful with our science and somebody else wanted it, so because we wanted money or whatever we wanted, we let the science get out of hand, and the thing they built has the word extreme in it.
I
like that.
Can I actually say something about what you just said?
Yeah.
That is literally the theme of the Extremis graphic novel. That is like they literally
I've not read Extremis, so I was going to ask you about it. Yeah.
Yep, that is the theme. With Tony and Maya Hansen, there's actually a scene in that book where they sit down with another character who says, "Look, both of you got into this with the best of intentions. What have you done? You've created the most powerful weapon in the world, and you're working off military contracts." So yeah, I think it's really interesting that you got that from the film.
It's all about, yeah, and it's great. I thought that was really well handled. It's all about human motivation, and I like that it's not all sinister motivation. There was something, and I'm sorry, we'll get away from this as soon as I say this. There was something in this that reminded me a lot of a little thing from Dark Knight, and that was the senator who is involved. Because he wants to use Extremis to fix his daughter's leg or something.
That's the vice president.
Was it the vice? I forgot who that. Yes, thank you, the vice president. I liked how they did that because it's not done in exposition. It's done in a shot. You see the little girl with half of her leg missing, and if you're paying attention, you know that Extremis can fix that. So you know that he's in bed with the bad guy, not for any political reason, not for any intention of malice, but because he thinks he can fix his daughter. That's just like that cop in Dark Knight who is in league with
Joker or the mob.
With the mob, yeah.
Well, something that I really, really liked about this movie with using Extremis the way they did is probably more so than any of the Iron Man films have felt, except for maybe the first act of the first one. This felt like a science fiction movie. Not a hard science fiction movie.
That's a wonderful point.
It's not a hard science fiction movie where it's about the science, it's about the implications of a theoretical science.
Oh, yeah, traditional.
I really, really like that, because that's what Iron Man's supposed to be.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, Philip K. Dick stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But kind of moving into other stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Jump wherever, go ahead.
I want to talk about Pepper and Rhodey. Because we talked a lot about them when we did the commentary for Iron Man 2. I don't think Pepper gets much more screen time in this than she did in 2.
But I like her about 5 times more.
I thought she was... I love that she's still running the company. I was really glad that they made that decision to just, she's still running the company. And I loved when Killian comes in and she says, sorry, this looks too weaponizable. Like she doesn't consult with Tony, she makes a decision completely on her own as the person who runs Stark Industries.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that even though we do have a you kidnap my girlfriend plot at the end. I didn't feel like the movie was womanizing or putting the woman in too much of that traditional role necessarily. I mean, I kind of wish it could have avoided the kidnapping the girlfriend thing. At the same time, I guess I've just seen it so many times, and it stacks up with all those other superhero tropes that I mentioned earlier. Like this movie, the latter half, I mean, like, it just goes into typical superhero fare. I mean, like everything you've ever seen in a superhero movie is in that last half. Well, and I guess that just compounded it for me, where I was just like, wow, like the first half, I couldn't call anything. I didn't know where we were going, and now it just turned into Spider-Man. Like,
well, what? I think that's unfair with the kidnapped girlfriend for a couple of reasons. First of all, for the first time, maybe as far as I can remember ever in like a superhero movie, it has nothing to do really with Tony. Like, we find out later, she has that line where she's like, "This doesn't really have anything to do with Tony, does it? You just want me." And I can't think of another superhero film where they're not just kidnapping her to get at Tony.
Yeah, and isn't it also important to know that they also kidnapped Tony?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a Shane Black film. Everybody gets kidnapped.
Yeah, right, but I'm just saying that it's not, we kidnapped the girlfriend to lure the superhero. We've got him.
Yeah. But
that's a good point. I didn't think of it like that. No, we've already got him. And they have separate relationships. He has a thing with Tony, and he has a thing with her that's established in the first 15 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. Yeah, sure.
And the other thing is, I mean,
that's what I mean is that I think I resisted it just because, it's that again. But you're right, they do turn it on its head to a point.
I think there's a lot of stuff like that in this where they take kind of a standard superhero thing and turn it on its head. But the other thing is, she gets the final blow on the bad guy.
Now, a lot of people are really angry about that.
I really liked it for a couple of reasons. The first one was she's put up with a lot of shit for the past 4 films. Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
crap.
That's all right.
She put up with a lot of crap for the past 4 movies. I'm sorry. Anyways,
yeah, I'm writing down a timestamp.
Okay. She put up with a lot of crap for the last 4 movies, and what I think it's really nice that she gets that final payoff. But on top of that, I thought, I mean, Lois Lane never got to take out Lex Luthor. You know, Mary Jane never got to take out Dr. Octopus. The fact that she got kidnapped and she gets the final blow, I really liked that. And I also thought it was kind of part of that turning things on its head. Like, at the end of the day, Tony has this spectacular battle. He took out the last 3 bad guys. Like, why can't she have this moment?
Yeah, and, you know, that's an excellent rebuttal. I'll add this. I think that you could make the case, and perhaps I would on a second viewing, I think you can make the case that her story arc in this is unintentionally becoming a superhero.
Yeah, there's a
little bit of that going on. She gets to wear armor, which of course is alluding to rescue. So I mean, like there's a scene where she gets to wear armor, and then she gets superpowers. And I mean, like, basically, and also early on in the movie, because you have this thing where she is befriending who will become the supervillain, and then later on he turns out that he's behind all the terrible machinations and wants her as part of his plan. I mean, like it's that classic, the superhero and the villain are friends, and then they turn against each other. He is every bit as much her arch nemesis as he is Tony's.
Well, and something is
all right.
After she takes him out and she's in that kind of like Extremis Super Saiyan state, and she, like, you know, Extremis like deactivates or whatever, where she returns to normal. Her first line is, "That was really violent." Now it's a good joke, but if you know Rescue, she has no weapons. She's designed to keep people safe during big superhero battles. So I feel like there was a lot of stuff in here that I was like, oh, Rescue's coming.
Yeah, that's really cool, because she's always been pretty pacifistic.
Yeah, the other thing that I want to talk about with her is this the longest, most stable relationship any superhero film series has sustained?
I'm thinking, yeah, I think so. Because Spider-Man's is off again, on again.
Yeah. Batman's
is everywhere. Well, and he's never technically even with Rachel.
Even Superman kind of isn't really with Lois Lane after Superman 2. I think it's really funny that the playboy who sleeps around has the most traditional relationship of superheroes.
That is quite fascinating, and now could almost be his superhero sidekick.
Yep. Speaking of superhero sidekicks, I thought Rhodey was really, really good in this.
Yeah, he was missing for so long that I started really questioning it, and then they get this kind of fun buddy cop thing going on.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
Here he is, my single favorite thing about Rhodey in this movie.
The War Machine thing?
The fact that War Machine Rocks is his password is just kind of the funniest thing.
And his email account is like War Machine 63.
Yeah, he is a raging fanboy about his own superhero identity.
Which is so funny because he didn't even get it in the last movie.
Yeah, I think that it was really great that War Machine is called War Machine, that everything that's supposed to be called something superhero, they don't shy away from it. It makes Iron Man 2 look really glaring.
Well, not only is, he's War Machine, the Mandarin is called the Mandarin. We actually get kind of two people called the Mandarin in this. Everything that's supposed to be named is named. There's no shying away from any of that.
Yeah, well, and then Iron Patriot is kind of the silliest name for anything, and they use it, and they talk about how silly it is. And I also love that scene where he's like, no, Iron Patriot's better. No, it's not.
And I thought, I don't know if Rhodey himself really gets any kind of character arc.
He really doesn't, and that kind of bugged me a little bit. Just because I wanted to see him more developed, and I really don't think he was. I think he was just having more fun, which I appreciated.
I think he's written better. But the thing is,
sure.
I think the problem with...
And clearly Cheadle was having more fun, because he got
absolutely.
stunts, and I think that's what he really wanted to do in 2.
But the thing I think that's a problem with this film, not like an actual problem, but a problem for side characters, because all three of the major supporting characters, Happy, Rhodey, and Pepper, all got sidelined for a while, is that they wanted to do a film where it took Tony away from everything. And when you do a movie like that, you can't have your supporting cast in every scene.
No, and that's just kind of a necessary evil for a story like that.
And I actually think one of the best scenes is, I guess it's kind of two scenes, when Tony calls Pepper, and then when Pepper gets the message. Because first of all, that may be the single most responsible thing any superhero's ever done in a superhero film in a situation like that. Like, I feel like in most every other superhero film, like, they'd show up like, oh, by the way, I'm not dead.
Yeah, I also really appreciated that it didn't take the whole freaking movie for Pepper to figure out what was going on with him like it did in 2.
Yeah, I love that.
That was my biggest
almost immediately
thing
knew
about Pepper in 2, and that's why it was hard for me to like her there. I just really enjoyed their relationship stuff in this, and whenever she was upset with him, it made sense, and they didn't.
And I think you could actually maybe make the argument that that's a progression of their relationship since the last film.
I think it totally is.
There's a couple of things like that where I was like, I wonder if that is intentionally building. We have the thing at the end where Tony goes in and gets the surgery and gets the arc reactor removed. It's vague about whether Extremis is used or not. I think it's intentionally vague. I don't think they wanted to handcuff whoever has to deal with Iron Man next. I don't think
that's fair, although that is one of my biggest complaints about the movie.
Okay. Really?
Oh, yeah, I had a huge problem with that.
Why?
Because Tony Stark's whole thing is, I can't get this arc reactor out of my body, and then there's no explanation for how he does it.
Can I make an argument?
I listened to your review, I heard your argument, but it's not in the movie.
I think it is. I mean, the whole movie is about him is about him not being able to not have Iron Man.
No, I get that, but the fact that he's got a psychological complex about it does not explain how he gets it out. Here's the thing. Not very much time passes between Avengers and this, clearly.
You're right.
And not very much time passes between Iron Man 2 and Avengers, pretty clearly. Not very much. I don't know how much, but it can't be more than a year. I don't think. I guess my point is, in Iron Man 2, he's freaking dying.
Okay, hold on. I've been thinking about this because people have brought this up. I think that actually makes all of that maybe more tragic. That he is willing to die and stay Iron Man than he is willing to live and just be Tony Stark.
No, I don't buy it. I don't even kind of.
All right,
buy it.
I'm
that's
just
a neat
going
idea if that's what they did with it, but I think you were extrapolating far beyond the...
Well, the thing is, because I don't know. I think it's intentionally vague so that the...
No, it is intentionally vague, and I don't agree with the fact that it's intentionally vague.
I like it's intentionally vague because I think it would have been unfair to, at the end of the film, load Tony up with extra superpowers and then go, okay, next guy, deal with that. I think... I see why you're saying that, but for the sake of the film and for the sake of the other two films, I think it's a major problem. Because I just think you're extrapolating too far beyond the material. In Iron Man 2, he is losing his mind because he's going to die and there's nothing he can do about it. That whole movie is about how Tony doesn't know how to not be in control. He's always been able to fix things before. What you're talking about destroys everything that actually worked thematically in that movie, and don't do that because I don't like that movie all that much. Okay. I'm just presenting a possibility. I'm going to assume that it was Extremis, and maybe we'll get a drop. I wish they just said that he used Extremis and didn't say...
I didn't even think of that, because it's, not in the movie. The way it
well,
it
it's kind of in the movie, because you immediately get two surgeries back to back. One is him telling Pepper, I know how this process works, and he takes it out of Pepper, and the immediate next shot is him having a surgery.
That doesn't tell us anything, Eric. We don't know how much time passed between those two things. We don't know if they're related. And we also know from the after credits scene that he is telling this whole story to another person, and that any amount of time could have passed between those two events. Not any amount of time, but you know what I mean. Like I don't see how the fact that the scenes are right next to each other means that they're in any way connected.
I'm not saying it has to be. I wish...
But it's also not there. They don't tell us that. I'm just saying. I mean, like I like the idea that maybe it was Extremis, but I wouldn't have even thought of that because it's not there. The way it plays, or at least the way I remember it, it seems like it plays as if he could have done this the whole time. And if that's the case, I really, really resist that.
That's entirely fair. I guess honestly.
The notion of he has to be Iron Man is fantastic. That's fine. That's in Iron Man 2. We've had that, and now it's worse because he has these anxiety attacks. So he's even like he's clinging even harder to that persona. Yeah, that's all fine. The persona, but like if he was able to get that arc reactor out of his chest the entire time, it kind of ruins everything that came before it.
That's completely fair. I think really we'll find out next time Tony Stark shows up whether he has Extremis powers or not. Because I think if he shows up and has it, it doesn't matter.
I think a little bit of ambiguity is fine. I really do. I think that not telling us exactly how it happened, totally fine. A bigger deal needed to have been made out of the fact that he was able to do it. That's all I'm saying. And it's the same problem I had with 2, only I think this is actually worse. Because with 2, I didn't really care for the fact that, like, Jarvis says, hey, making this element is impossible, and then seconds later he's made it with no explanation as to how he did the impossible. The same thing here, except it's 3 movies of this is impossible.
I think it's fine within the film itself. I think when you look back at the first 2, it has its problems, but I think it works within the film itself.
Okay, well, we'll have to agree to disagree. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that's I'm not saying I loved it. But when I saw that, I immediately assumed he was using Extremis. And then I saw everyone else saying, well, he just gets this surgery. Why didn't he just do it all along?
So are we to assume that the whole idea of the ending, because I thought that also what the point of the end was maybe a little ambiguous, but again, I've seen the film one time, is the idea that he is gotten rid of all of it as far as everybody knows, but he still doesn't know how to completely get away from Iron Man? I mean, like, is that the idea? Or is it that he's made peace with it and now in his mind, Tony Stark is Iron Man without having to have armor? I'm not real sure what the point of the end is.
What I take away from the end, on two levels. The first one is his entire character arc throughout the film. I mean, the entire reason he has his anxiety attacks and then gets over them is really a complete and total fear for his own humanity. And it's when he busts into the Mandarin's house and does it on just, stuff he can find at Home Depot as Tony Stark. Because, when you kind of think about it, even the Iron Man stuff, once he gets out of that cave, Jarvis is making a lot of that. It's Tony's science, but he's not making it. Tony gets over his fear of, I'm just a man, by realizing he can actually do things. He doesn't have to be Iron Man.
Yeah, he really is remarkable all by his lonesome.
Yeah, and I think that's what, because after that scene, we never get another anxiety attack. He really realized, he kind of...
That's true.
It's kind of a boost in self-confidence kind of a thing. Like, he realizes, I don't just have to be in this armor.
You're right, and when you put it that way, I'm a little more okay with the anxiety attacks. I thought the idea of that was really cool, and I liked the idea that he's dealing with something that immediately relates to Avengers, because that was the last time we saw him, and he has a character arc in that movie that at the end we're not able to really explore. So I appreciated that. At the same time, at first, Eric, I had a really tough time imagining that the idea that there are aliens and possibly other dimensions and things
it's not that
would really bother Tony Stark that much. But I think you're right. That's not it. He's worried that Tony Stark can't fix everything.
Well, and
just like he was in 2, but then it's on a bigger scale.
Well, and
Tony Stark by himself can't fight aliens. He can't do it.
And you have to remember that he was the only person on that team that was a normal guy.
That's right. He's
Captain
got that Batman thing.
Thor's a soldier. Black Widow and Hawkeye are both trained assassins. Hulk. He is the only regular guy who's never dealt with, because it's not just that it's aliens in a wormhole. He was essentially in a war zone. An alien war zone, but a war zone nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that even though Iron Man has been in some war zones before, he's never been even remotely outmatched except for a couple of supervillains.
He's never been in a war zone that's on the level of Iron Man.
You mean the level of Avengers?
No. I mean, like on his level as Iron Man. When he went and fought terrorists, they were just guys.
But again, yeah, he has in that he fought other people in armor, but beyond that.
But it wasn't an army. It was one guy.
It was one guy. Yeah, that's right.
So I think it's really all about Tony realizing or fearing how helpless he really is without his armors, and then realizing how much he can stand up on his own.
I know a lot of people wouldn't agree with this, but to a degree, this is almost a story I'd love. Not the same thing, obviously. This is almost a story I'd love to see somebody attempt with Batman.
I think Batman's self-confident.
What's that?
I think Batman's too self-confident in his abilities always.
He is, but up against something like Darkseid?
Maybe. It'd be a good, early years Batman story.
I mean, that's kind of why I like that Morrison had Darkseid, of all people, kind of sort of kill him. Because it's like, yeah, Batman really shouldn't be able to go up against that, no matter how smart he is.
Right. But
anyway.
So I think with all of that, when we get to the ending, it's not him saying he's never going to be Iron Man anymore, because the getting rid of the suits, I don't think is him saying that. The getting rid of the suits is essentially him getting rid of the last of the remnants of his
obsession?
Yeah, and his anxiety. Because he made all those suits, and we see they're not that durable either. He's just making things because he can't sleep. He doesn't need any of that anymore. He'll probably use another suit.
And I'm glad you addressed that, because that is one of the biggest complaints I've been hearing from people is...
I think it's a character sense.
How are all of those suits so easily destroyed?
Well, they're all suits that are pieced together and can come to Tony. And the suit that we see throughout the film, the Mark 42, is completely not durable. It's a prototype. Presumably, they're all prototypes, and that's why they're so not durable.
So we don't see the Mark 1 or 2 in that scene. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't see any of the ones from the previous films in that scene.
Because if you're right about that, then I think that, and I don't even think you're going too far. I think you're totally right. Those suits that can come right to him, they weren't that durable earlier on in the film either. I mean, like again, they're prototypes. And I think it's also important to remember that he rushed them all.
Yeah, he's had nothing to, he's been not sleeping, and he's just you know.
So the technology is amazing, but it's also a rush job.
And it's also incomplete. The armor that he wears through most of the movie is a prototype. It's not done.
So it's important to remember that just because he's made 42 armors doesn't mean that any of them are tested.
Exactly.
Except for the ones we've seen in previous films. So like all of those other weird armors that he brings to him, they haven't been in previous fights.
Right.
Ever. Okay, that's good. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. And again, I don't think you're reaching there. I think that's there. And I just didn't think of it. But you're right. I think that's there.
And then getting to the end of the film,
yeah,
when he says I am Iron Man, it's him saying, you know what? Whether I have armor, whether I don't, I, Tony Stark, am Iron Man. I don't, he can stand on his own. I also think that
and I think that's a cool idea because that's kind of an escalation from kind of a major turning point from what we had in Iron Man 2, where he says, the suit and I are one.
Yeah.
And now he's saying, I don't even need the suit.
Yep. And I think it's entirely possible, if Robert Downey Jr. didn't want to come on for a full role, I don't think it would be insane if Rhodey was the main physical Iron Man in Avengers 2, and Tony was kind of a behind-the-scenes tech guy, at least for that movie.
I think that'd be fantastic, yeah.
And I think it really works as a possible ending for Downey as Iron Man. I mean, his contract is up with this movie. He's talked about whether or not he's going to come back. I think we're pretty sure he won't come back past an Iron Man 4.
I think we're almost positive he'll do Avengers 2, though.
Yeah, he's definitely doing Avengers 2. Shane Black has said he's almost positive Downey will do an Iron Man 4.
Does Shane Black want to do 4?
Shane Black hasn't said anything about that as far as I know.
Oh, okay. Just when you said that, I was kind of curious.
But given how mixed reaction the film's getting, I don't know if he'll want to come back.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's going to matter how mixed the criticism is, because it's second now only to Avengers, which I think is just preposterous. It made $175 million opening weekend. Did you ever in a million years think an Iron Man film would do those kind of guns? That's crazy.
But being the first movie after Avengers,
I don't think Iron Man 3 made that money. I think Avengers made that money.
Absolutely. If this had been Captain America 2, it would have made that kind of money.
And I also think that it's important. If it had been Guardians of the Galaxy, it would have made something close. Just because it's the next one after. I think it's important to note that because this was the one right after Avengers that did that kind of money, what's going to be really interesting and telling is going to be, since it was that mixed, and since we do now have a movie between Avengers and the next one, and since the next one, Thor: The Dark World, doesn't come out till November and is not a summer blockbuster, what kind of money is that going to bring in?
I'm going to be interested, especially since Thor seems to be the worst received of the films,
and it also I think was the most poor performance wise.
Yeah, I mean this one looks more like what I want from a Thor movie, but
me too.
But yeah, I'm on the whole, I really liked Iron Man 3. I thought a lot of stuff worked. I know a lot of people felt like the comedy undercut everything. I never really felt like that. The one example,
cut everything. I thought that there was decent balance. Like I felt like there was more emotional resonance with the rough stuff Tony Stark was going through than he was in Iron Man 2. I cared more about him here with anxiety attacks than I did when he was dying, which bothers me.
I love the anxiety attack stuff. I think I
like it a lot more now than I thought I did after we've talked. But I will say that there were definitely some comedy moments that just didn't work for me. They didn't gel with me. It was probably a taste thing. It was just some stuff that I thought Happy got too much screen time at the beginning.
I loved Happy at the beginning. I thought he was hysterical.
I thought Favreau went a little overboard. Like the womanizing thing, was just a little too much for me. He
wasn't womanizing.
Yeah, he was.
No, he wasn't.
You don't think he was?
No, he's obsessed with security badges and making sure everyone's cleared. And when he wakes up, he looks at that nurse, and he's upset because she doesn't have a security badge.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah, he's...
Oh, okay. I didn't catch... Well, okay. But, I mean, the thing is, though, I seem to recall other bits where he was kind of, like, checking out women and stuff. But,
no, he's all... Well, maybe a little bit at that party in the beginning.
Yeah.
But after that, like...
Yeah.
Like, because he's head of security, he keeps looking for people to have security badges.
See, that's kind of funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know. There's some
I
comment that I think
between him and Tony. When he calls Tony when Killian gets there, and Tony's like trying to explain him how to work, he's like, you know what? I don't work for you anymore. I don't have to listen to you.
Yeah, and none of that was that funny to me.
Oh, see, I thought all that was really funny.
But there were a lot of beats like that where I was just like, yeah, I know there's probably people laughing at this, but it's just not doing anything for me.
I will say this is the quietest I've seen in an Iron Man film, and including Avengers. I mean, there were some laughs, most of them coming from my friends and I, but I felt like when I walked out of that theater, I got the distinct impression, I'm like, I think most people didn't enjoy that. Like, I feel like most people, I feel like it's very in tune to what I want in a film. As an Iron Man film and as a film in general, I don't know if it's exactly what everyone else wants.
It's weird because my crowd loved it.
Well, I mean, because did you have an actual midnight showing, or did you have one of those weird midnight showings that I had?
Well, first of all, what you had wasn't weird because they just released it a day early.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, it had 6 and 7 o'clock openings everywhere.
Oh, okay.
They just opened it a day early for some reason. I don't know why, but, like, the official release date wasn't until the 3rd, but I mean, like, every theater had it as early as 6 or 7 o'clock on the 2nd, on Thursday. But anyway, no, I did actually go at midnight, but my theater had shown it 4 times before that.
Okay. But yeah, and the general consensus I've kind of been getting from people is that the comic book fans are annoyed, mostly with the Mandarin thing. It's really weird, because none of them really read comic books featuring the Mandarin, but they're all really annoyed by that, and it really turned them off to the rest of the movie. Normal people seem to be liking it more. I'm going with my family this weekend. I'm going to be really interested to see what they think of it.
I love that you called them normal people.
The normies, you know. You see them walking around in the street.
I am still just so mixed on it. I don't know. It was just an experience thing. It was just I was like taken by the whole movie, the first half, and then that reveal happens, and then I was less involved the whole rest of the film, and I couldn't decide why. But I was less involved.
What a lot of people felt, and I'm actually glad that I knew that reveal was coming in because I didn't have to. I feel like I would have walked out like a lot of other people. I think the fact that I knew, a couple of days ahead of time, I was like, okay, Mandarin's not really gonna be. I was super excited when Killian announced that he was the Mandarin. I was like, I'll take that. But I knew that stuff going in, just that one bit, because everyone was talking about, you're gonna hate the Mandarin thing, and I'm like, I think I said it to you, like a week before the movie.
Yeah, you did.
When people started saying that, I'm like, I think he's an actor. That's the only thing I can think of that would make people react that way.
Well, and maybe that's, honestly, I remember you saying that now, and I forgot about that. Maybe that's the reason that I thought I had it figured out. That, I mean, again, I didn't think he was necessarily an actor, but I just thought he's not the brains behind the operation.
I don't think you would have thought that if people hadn't started jumping up and down saying, oh, there's a big twist with the Mandarin.
I also had that thing, and it wasn't something where I spent the whole movie going, or the whole, next part of it going, that's gonna be the villain or anything. But I had that thing where during the 1999 stuff, where Killian is caked up on all that makeup, and he's got the awful teeth and everything.
Right.
I remember thinking, okay, so that guy's caked up in a whole ton of makeup, so we're gonna see him later, and he's gonna look like dapper and cool and stuff.
Well, that's kind of fair. I mean, I knew that because he's on the posters, and I know what Guy Pearce looks like.
See, that's not an actor I know.
Oh, okay. I mainly know him from Memento, Time Machine, and kind of Micro. Oh, and something else.
See, I have seen a couple of those films, but I guess I just forgot that's who that was. Okay, yes, I do know who that is. I just haven't seen him in so long. I forgot that's who that was.
He kind of dropped out after Time Machine. Kind of.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't look exactly the same either.
No, he's older. One of the things that I want to comment about this film, because I haven't seen like anybody commenting about it, that I think makes this film really, really strong in the Marvel lineup. I think this is the first Marvel film that works completely standalone. Not saying you don't have to watch, because I think this works well as a sequel to Avengers, but I didn't get the feeling at any point in this film that I was ever having a carrot dangled in front of me. And I think every single Marvel film up to Avengers had that to some extent, even the first Iron Man.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I think this was entirely self-contained. I love that it referenced the other things in the Marvel universe. It felt very comic book when Killian had that line about, when the guy with the hammer fell out of the sky, subtlety went out the window. I was like, I get that reference. Like, I really liked that they made those references.
Well, and it's also cool that we have the sense that the world has changed.
Yes. I mean, this is
cool.
as much a sequel to Avengers as it is to the Iron Man film.
It is, and yet it's not in our faces, and we don't have to have cameos from everybody in the
no,
one.
I
love get us at the end, and yeah, that's fun. Oh, I also have to mention something about the after credit sequence, because I would have been very annoyed had we not gotten that. Because I don't generally like bookended narration for no good reason. Very often there's just no reason for it. And especially here because we've never had Tony Stark narrating.
Right.
So, and of course, I'm thinking, okay, he's gotta be talking to somebody. He's telling a story to somebody. It was just me being a fiction guy and into writing and stuff, with something like that, I've got to know what the point of view is. I've got to know who he's talking to. And so the fact that we finally got that at the end, I was like, okay, well, I don't know if I needed this, but at least I knew who he was talking to.
You know what I liked about that after credit sequence?
It has nothing to do with later movies?
Yes, this is honestly literally the first time I have ever seen a Marvel movie where I didn't walk out of the theater being like, okay, I have to see the next one. Because, and not in like a general excitement way, but like at the end of Avengers when you get that shield thing, you're like, or I mean at the end of Iron Man when you got that shield thing, you're like, oh my god, like I have to see the next one. And you have that kind of with each film. I love that this one didn't dangle any carrots in front of you. It was completely standalone, even the after credits scene. It feels less like a marketing push to see all of these films.
Yeah. Well, they don't need it anymore.
No.
Marketing push is there. Look how much this made opening weekend.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm gonna be really interested to see how everything else plays, particularly Guardians, but
We are an hour in. We should probably wrap this up. There's one major element we have not discussed whatsoever, and that's the kid.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention the kid.
I'm so on the fence about the kid.
I really like him.
Of course you do. You like everything about this movie.
I think he's one of the best kid actors I've seen in years.
I thought his performance was remarkable. I did.
What's there to disagree about?
But I thought that their relationship was a little bit awkward and uneven. I think maybe it's, again, a taste issue thing. There's some comedy bits that, were awkward and people laughed at it because it was awkward, and I was like, oh, it's that sort of thing, and it just doesn't do anything for me. But at the same time, I also don't know that with a kid like that, I guess we've never really seen Tony Stark deal with children, so I wasn't really sure how he would be with kids.
He seems to be the most ill-equipped person to deal with kids.
Yeah, there's that, but also, it's still hard for me to buy that he would go as far as he does in being so,
I thought this.
What's the word I'm looking for? He was so insensitive when he was talking about the kid's father and stuff that it was really difficult for me to like some of that.
I thought that the kid very quickly established that he was snarky and he could throw it right back at Tony, that Tony felt comfortable.
See, I thought that was all too forced because it happens too early. Like all that is set up so super fast. They're just really snarky together at the beginning. I guess the problem is that the actor and the kid, I'm sorry, it's the kid and Downey, from the beginning they're on frame together, they feel like they've known each other for days.
I like that. I don't know. It worked for me. It's actually the thing that I think most in this movie. Well, it doesn't feel like a Shane Black thing. It feels very like 80s action movie. but in a way that works more than I think most of the times when they did stuff like that in 80s action movies. It was such a weird way to go. Like, I never would have thought that they would do that in a superhero film. But
and it's always risky to do a thing like that with a kid. Because kids are generally unlikable in movies, and this kid was not unlikable, and like I said, the performance is great. I was a little bit more unsure about stuff Downey was doing, honestly.
That's kind of fun. I think this is the best performance Downey's given since the first act of Iron Man. I think he reined himself in a lot from how...
See, I didn't get that at all. I'm not sure where you get off saying he reined it in. I think his performance is good.
I thought he was a lot more subtle than he was in the second one.
I don't know that I could... I don't know that I buy that. I don't know if I buy subtle. I buy more intense. I buy, like, the stakes are higher, and like this is how I would have rather seen him act when he was dying, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think there's a certain amount of redo here. They wanted to cover certain themes again, but better.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But I'm not sure. Like I don't know. Maybe when we know the movie a little bit better, you can give me some examples of what you mean by reining it in, because I don't see that.
He just didn't seem as big as he did in 2.
But that's only because the whole point of 2 was...
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And I mean, I don't think it's reining. I think he's more over the top than he is in 1 in a lot of places.
The giant bunny was hysterical as far as the topness goes.
I didn't even buy that he would buy that. The idea that he would think that she would even like that was just stupid.
The joke doesn't work as well when he's upset that she doesn't like it. I think it's funny that he would buy it, and I don't not believe that he would buy it.
I think it's just more that you think things like that are funny. I'm just not sure that
things like that are funny.
I'm just but my point is, does it make sense that somebody who time and time again has like not been good at that sort of thing?
Perfect relationship.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. It shouldn't be. Like, I think the strawberry thing works even better than that does. Like, I don't know, whatever. I'm at this point, I'm talking about things that don't even matter. Like really, it's not that big of a deal. I was really, that's a little too over the top. I get that he's eccentric, but
I think that's a big thing with this film. Is I think this film definitely more so than the first film, maybe even more so than the second film. Because I think in the second film the comedy went very broad. Like there's certain things that are very much my sense of humor in the second film. I think most of it's going very broad. I think this film, more so than the other two, has a very specific sense of humor.
I think it does too, yeah.
It has Shane Black's sense of humor. And if you're not on board with that, you're not going to like it as much.
Well, and I think that you've hit it. I think that's precisely the reason a lot of people are not liking that reveal, because the reveal is a joke.
Yeah.
And it's a very specific kind of joke, you know? I don't mean that it's a joke in that suddenly the movie's not taking anything seriously anymore, but it does reveal it.
It's a punch.
With a joke. And suddenly the actor who's playing the Mandarin is kind of the big punchline of the movie.
Yeah. He's everybody's saying he's doing a Russell Brand. I think he comes off very, that guy from Pirates of the Caribbean whose name I can't remember, Captain whatever.
Oh, really? You think he's doing a Johnny Depp?
Not a Johnny Depp, but specifically...
Just Jack Sparrow? Yeah, but I think Johnny Depp is...
Jack Sparrow, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Johnny Depp seems to only do Jack Sparrow nowadays.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure when you go see Lone Ranger, Tonto is going to be Jack Sparrow Tonto.
Lone Ranger.
What's that?
I said I will not be seeing Lone Ranger.
No, I won't. I don't want to see that.
You will see it eventually for Superhero Rewind. This is the hole you have dug for yourself.
Yeah, isn't it though?
But when he did the reveal, I'm like, there's a little bit of Jack Sparrow here, and I think it's kind of funny. Because not that I didn't like Jack Sparrow in the first film like everybody else, I just got tired of it. But here I was like, it's kind of funny here. And there's also some amount of humor in just an Academy Award winning actor who has been knighted acting like that.
Well, don't you wonder if that's also maybe not why some people are... I mean, maybe why some people are so upset about it too, is that they were looking forward to seeing that guy play a supervillain?
I think a lot of it is just... And I've seen people saying this. I mean, this film was marketed and the Mandarin was everywhere.
Yeah, and I think that was a big thing. Maybe if they had downplayed the villain a little more.
Well, they did. They upplayed Ben Kingsley.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, maybe if they had downplayed the fact that there was a villain plot.
One of the things that I thought was actually a tell retroactively that I noticed.
Yeah.
Killian's around considerably. He has his own poster.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he got his own, because they did like a poster with Pepper, with Tony, with Rhodey, with Ben Kingsley, and with Killian.
It's interesting. Yeah. So it's like they're kind of dropping hints because everybody's gonna be like, well, who the heck is that guy?
And Killian's kind of peppered throughout the trailers too.
Peppered.
I think. I don't know. I thought it was a really interesting choice, and that seems to be. I think I saw it. I don't remember if it was in my review or if it was in your review. In the comments, people were complaining about, or people were saying, well, you know, I was falsely marketed to. I was like, it's a little bit of a bait and switch, but how else
it's a
do you
huge
do it?
bait and switch.
But how else would you do it?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. And again,
to make this movie, how do you sell it?
Again, I also don't know what I wanted now. You see what I'm saying? I mean, like, it's simply a taste thing. At least for me. I mean, like, I understand why some people think that it was just a bad choice. For me, I'm sort of like, I think ultimately it all kind of works and comes together. I don't think it's a big plot hole or whatever. I just think that I just found myself going, well, this isn't what I wanted. But then I can't tell you what I did want.
Well, you know, I kind of had the same thing because going into it, like they said up and down, look, you're not getting the Mandarin with laser rings. And I kept being like, how is he going to be a threat? And I think what they did with it was a really interesting take that really subverted expectations. And I think it's the first maybe ever time that a comic book film has been able to do something like that to the comic book fans.
Well, and it's kind of interesting in a way that, like, the movie does to us the same thing that the plot is doing to the characters in the movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know if that's fun, but, you know, there it is. Eric, something I was going to say earlier, I would love to see a poll. We were talking about the comedy. I would love to take a poll and see how many people who don't like the Mandarin reveal also didn't like much of the comedy in the film.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a correlation there. Because like I said, I think it's a very specific sense of humor where the first two films are much broader.
Because I feel like I have to put myself in the camp of people who didn't like the reveal, although I can't articulate it very well. And yet, and I also, you know, didn't like a lot of the comedic beats that you're talking about. So, maybe there's a correlation there.
Maybe.
But again, it's a taste thing, you know. I don't want to come off like, you know, oh, there's this big plot thing I'm claiming is in the movie, but I'm not going to tell you why. No, it's not that. I think it works. I just don't know that I liked it.
I think it's interesting because I think honestly, I think this is.
I think if I watch it again, I'll be more okay with it because I know now.
I think, well, you know what? I think a lot of people are going to have that. I honestly think this film is going to get a better reputation as it goes forward, and people don't have the immediate gut punch. I think people are going to be more okay with it. But I think doing this film as the next film after the Avengers is the smartest move they could have done, because they will never get away with doing a film this unsafe again, unless that becomes Iron Man's thing. But I felt like this felt like the most unsafe superhero film since maybe like Iron Man: The Dark Knight.
I feel like what they're doing with this, I think you're right about that, although I think they're also setting a precedent and potentially saying we are now willing to try stuff now that we have financial security that we would have never attempted in the past. And I mean that as not Iron Man films, but Marvel Studios films. Because Guardians is just a risk all by itself, even making that movie.
Right.
So, I mean, like, yeah, they won't be able to get away with exactly that again, Eric, but I think this is going to be the start of Marvel movies attempting crazy things.
Maybe possibly, if I may, maybe Marvel movies being a bit more artistic?
Or at least...
Maybe taking, they're definitely going to take more chances going forward.
Yeah, you're taking more chance, doing things that are more comic booky. Because a lot of people have said since Avengers, oh wow, Marvel has found a way to make movies somewhat in the comic book formula. Not exactly, but just in, now we're making movies in these franchises that don't have to have numbers. They're not necessarily sequels so much as just another installment like comic books. People are talking about how down the road we might recast these characters so we can keep them young.
I hope Iron Man 3 is the last Iron Man with a number on it. I hope going forward it's got names.
I really hope it's got names after that, yeah. And I hope that Iron Man 4 is called Invincible Iron Man.
Oh, that'd be great.
We got that with Incredible Hulk, and even DC is doing it with Man of Steel. I think that's I think that's just a wonderful thing to finally start. And Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's just a wonderful thing to start doing with these characters is go back to the comic book titles and use those titles everybody knows.
Yeah, I think it's fun with Amazing Spider-Man. It's just Amazing Spider-Man 2. I wish they'd had more fun with a sequel title.
It's not. We don't know what that's called yet.
Oh, has it not officially been titled?
No. It's not. As far as I know, yeah. I think they probably know what it is, and they're just not going to tell us yet. But no, there's been a lot of talk about it being another comic book title.
Oh, that'd be great.
I would not be surprised if they didn't call it Spectacular.
Or The Web of.
Yeah, one of those. But considering that we're getting like the bright suit now and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't call it Spectacular.
Yeah, no, that's I really like this.
Although, you know what I think would be even cooler? I don't think they'll go there because the title's not as popular or as well known, but I think it'd be cool if they had a movie called The Sensational Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That'd be pretty rad. But anyway. Well, anything else we didn't cover, Eric?
No, I think we hit most everything.
Well, I don't know. I think maybe I feel slightly more positive, at least, about some of the criticisms I had that you cleared up. And I mean, like, it's not just, oh, you're positive, so now I'm positive. There's still some stuff that I mentioned that I don't think you had an answer that worked for me. But certainly, why the armors blow up at the end makes a lot more sense to me now. I'm buying that at this point.
Well, that's good.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, so I haven't understood that complaint across the board. I was like, okay, the only armor that we see throughout the movie is super not durable, and we get all these other armors that are built to the same technology, and people are complaining that they're not durable.
You know, I didn't mention this earlier. One criticism I've heard that I do think is interesting and valid, though it wouldn't have occurred to me, is where exactly is Jarvis?
Tony has a thing in his ear. He's always talking to Jarvis.
Okay, but then...
Because he loses at one point.
Yeah, but that's what was weird about that, is, like, he loses him, and
Jarvis
it seems like
he's a little
he's...
omnipresent in this film.
Yeah, but, like, he loses him in that suit, and he has that whole thing where he's confused, and he can't talk right, but then he's also in his house and his other suits and stuff too. So, like, does that really make any sense? Like,
I don't know. They set that up in the first film that he was both in the house and in the suit.
Right, but the fact that he breaks down like he does was kind of weird, because it seems like he breaks down just because the suit does.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that makes any sense.
Actually, one other thing I want to mention real quick is,
But again, that wasn't my criticism. I saw that in a comment somewhere, and I thought it was interesting.
I felt, that this is the most tense and in danger I felt like Tony was in the final action scene, partially because the suits are so disposable, but Killian rips through like 3 or 4 suits. And I felt like that put Tony in a sense of danger that he's not had before. I don't know, I really dug the aspect of it, that he just ripped through like 3 or 4 suits.
Oh, you know what? There was also, I'm sorry, one more thing. There was also that thing about how we talked about this on the phone the other night, Eric. The fact that like the suits have to be coded to a particular person.
Oh yeah, that's
to be able to
that's-
use them. That seems inconsistent the way it's handled.
yeah, I
Because
have no defense for that one.
it goes on. So before the house blows up, to protect Pepper, Tony throws the armor on her, which is fine because it's coded to him, but he's able to, I think, control it. So to put it on another person and then control it from there, that's okay.
I actually had a
but then
possible
she's able to. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to set this up so people know what I'm talking about. And then she's able to move in that suit. That's the part that I don't understand, because at the end, he's not able to do that with a roadie. Why is that?
I had a possible answer for that one. It's completely reaching. It's not in the film.
Okay.
But my no prize answer is that because that's the one he's using, it's not genetically coded. But all the other ones, to keep them safe, to make sure they're not stolen or anything like that, he genetically codes them because he's not using them. That's the best I can come up with.
Yeah, that's possible, but
it's a plot hole.
Yeah, it's definitely a plot hole. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening.
Marvel is built around fixing plot holes with no prizes.
That's true. Actually, it is, yeah. Well, everybody, thanks a lot for listening to our podcast on Iron Man 3. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you about something else soon. Eric, let's do a commentary sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.